Okay, so I'm sure many of you know, Harman Lab released an actual, original, brand new film emulsion last year in their Harman Phoenix film. This past year, it's been incredibly popular to respool some Kodak film and re-release it, sleuthfully attempting to pass it off as a new film. Well, Harman did the unthinkable, reaching deep into the pockets of Ilford's funders and created not only a new 35mm film, but a month or two ago, a new medium format film as well. With that being said, I never ended up getting my grubby little sausages on the 35mm version, but seemingly a lot of people were pretty disappointed with the results from what I was gathering online. Which, from the outside looking in, honestly is not that surprising because Harman had basically stated that right now the film is a current work in progress and that they eventually are going to make it better. However, I was still seeing images from it that looked great, so I was pretty confused. The colors, sharpness, dynamic range when shot, and more importantly, scanned correctly, looked really, really good. So on 120 was released pretty much out of nowhere after I saw a couple leaks. I did some sleuthing, saw some leaks that it was coming out. I was excited to test it out and see what my final thoughts on it would be. So from my results and from what I've seen from others online, the consensus seems to be to shoot it at 100 or 125 ISO. Much like film in general, Phoenix prefers overexposure, otherwise it can get pretty contrasty pretty quickly. And when you're taking some more grandiose landscape photos like I did, you want to avoid that if you can. Which is the exact type of difficult scene that I really wanted to test this film on, as I thought that would be the most difficult and we could really see how it stands up, especially compared to Kodak's portrait line. However, I accidentally smashed my phone and lost pretty much all the B-roll outside of a couple clips because of it, which is obviously a huge bummer. But with that being said, I figured this area would be a great test ground for what I heard was a pretty warm and saturated film stock, and I would generally agree. Now, depending on your scan settings and if you followed Harman's recommended scan settings, I guess, I've seen a wide variety of different looks from this Phoenix film from different people. All of my images from a film stock standpoint look great in my mind. The scans and look is super consistent across all of them. I honestly would guess this is some Kodak film or high quality respooled cinema film, which is a huge compliment towards Harman. To be able to recreate something that high quality right off the bat for their 120 film is incredible in my opinion. Yes, I do think the images tend to have a bit more punchy saturation in the warmer tones, almost similar to Ektar, which I kind of expected, but I really do enjoy. It's funny, Santo Marco, the photographer I was shooting with these days, which you may have seen in a previous video, he asked if I was nervous to be testing this film on such a timely subject like the falling leaves in Colorado, but I just trusted the process and I'm really happy with how the images turned out, so shout out Harman. I know for me this summer I shot a lot of experimental film for the channel, which kind of, I don't want to say bit me in the ass, but I think the photos would have turned out a lot better on some Kodak professional film. So I think this is a huge compliment to Harman to be in the same ballpark as some of that stuff that is super reliable. In golden hour in indirect sunlight, there's a really nice softness and painterly quality to the colors, while in the direct sunlight or midday, it's much more contrasty while still retaining much of the highlights and dynamic range. With some of these, I'm really impressed with how much detail was retained in the highlights and shadows both. Also, shout out Midwest Film Co. for the scans. Justin and his team are always doing a great job, no matter what crazy film stock I send them. I know with these heated DSLR scans, from which I've collected, seems to be one of the best ways to get really good results with this film stock. Like I alluded to earlier with this film, especially on 35mm, it was seemingly pretty difficult to get good results consistently with it. I guess the main thing being is that this film doesn't actually have an orange mask to it, which I guess majority of scanners had an issue with scanning it, which was causing some crazy colors and inconsistencies, really high contrast, etc., which we were seeing before, but Harman has since released a best practices when scanning this film on both 120 and 35mm. So what Harman recommends is scanning this as a positive and then manually converting it yourself. Now obviously that's a much more time-intensive process, so I don't see every lab doing that, but with that being said, I talked to Justin from Midwest Film Co. and he said they've had great results scanning normally and then just inverting with Negative Lab Pro. Keep in mind they are scanning with an actual digital camera versus a Naritsu or something, so that does change it a little bit. But with that process and how I've seen my rolls come out, I don't have anything but good things to say about it. I'm really happy with the results, especially knowing that I could have shot Portra for quote-unquote safer results, but I genuinely think that these turned out as good as Portra, honestly. Here's some Portra from the same day, and yeah, I think it's pretty similar, and I think that speaks to how good Phoenix actually does look. Also, because I never shot this in 35mm, I actually don't have anything to compare, at least direct side by side to. But Kyle McDougall and Yvonne Hansen both have really good comparisons that you can check out, and I'll link those below. Also, Bray Hunziker walked through how he scanned it himself to get some really good results, so if you are interested in scanning it from home, I'd recommend you to check that out as well. Ultimately, I am really enjoying this new film stock so far. When shot and scanned under the right circumstances, I really do think that it could eventually rival some of Kodak's professional lineup. Any new film in general, especially one that looks this good, is good news, so I'm really excited to see where Harman goes with this and to see what the future looks like for them. I think people were a bit harsh with the 35mm and some of the initial 120 scans that I saw, but I think now that Harman has showed us how to scan it better and kind of what conditions it shoots best in, I'm interested to see what people in the community are going to be able to get from it. Also, shout out Reformed Film Lab. I obviously was not in the first batch of people that Harman sent Phoenix to, which I'm totally not salty about at all. But thankfully they hooked it up with a couple rolls, and Harman did actually get back to me and sent out a couple as well. So I have a couple on stock that I'm excited to shoot here down the road. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next one, stay safe, stay shooting. Peace out, adios.